This is an Acer laptop that was abandoned in the last couple of years. My name is Andrew, and in this video we're gonna do something different. Well, at first I really wasn't sure is this laptop working or not. I mean the motherboard, because there's nothing other left. I connect the charger, press the power button, and for a miracle, the motherboard shows some signs. Then I install RAM and I connect my test display, and it seems that the motherboard is alive. Probably you will ask, how the 15-inch display is working on a 17-inch laptop? Actually, that doesn't really matter. The most important thing is the display connector. If the display connector is with the same size, then no problem. Everything will work just fine. You probably didn't know this, but it's possible to use different size display to the most of the laptops. Well, now let's back on the laptop. When I do the basic tests, I found a few more problems. The half of the keyboard is not working, and the only thing here that is working is the trackpad. While I do the basic tests, the display is turning off automatically, like no power. The display has image a few minutes only, until the motherboard is still cold. But when the temperatures goes up, then no image on the display. But when I've tried the laptop on the external monitor using HDMI connection, then no problems. Everything is working just fine. Even I install Windows and I do more tests, and I didn't have any problems. After I finish with basic testing, it's time to take out and check the motherboard. At first, everything is looking normal, but actually is not. The motherboard is heavy repaired before. The first thing that I noticed was one thick short wire. And from the other side, the motherboard is heavy heated. The stickers around the RAM are melted, and some plastics are a little bit damaged, but nothing very serious. I'm gonna be short here, because checking the motherboard takes a lot of time. But this is what I found. The thick short wire is power redirecting. The battery controllers are totally damaged, and the motherboard on this place is burned, and that cannot be repaired. In this case, somebody just physically turned off the power that is directed to the battery. The problem with the display is coming from the motherboard also, and unfortunately, that cannot be repaired. The problem is in this place, but the problem is somewhere inside the motherboard, deep between the motherboard layers, and that cannot be repaired in this case. But the great thing is, the motherboard is working well on the external monitor. But I found one more thing. When I removed the heatsink and the cooling fan, I found that somebody swapped the CPU. This laptop model is supposed to be with Intel Core i3 CPU, but this is some Intel Celeron or Pentium CPU. Well, let's start and make something good from this hardware. Repairing this laptop literally will cost much more than buying another one, so I've decided to make something different. First I start with planning. I have a couple ideas, but I've decided to make something simple and something nice looking that can fit everywhere. I'm not really good at drawing, but I draw some ideas to get a little bit clearer picture. I need to make some small case, which is easy to matrix and clean from inside. Also I need a case with a good airflow to keep the temperatures down, and I need a case with simple design that can fit in any interior. When I had the basic design, then I back to the laptop and I took all parts that can be used. From the case with the keyboard, I took the power button and the speakers, and from the bottom case, I took the power cable. I didn't have a lot of stuff, but this is great for beginning. Now I back on drawing, because I need to take the motherboard dimensions and finish with the design of the case. Now it's time to build the case. The case, I will make it from 4 wood, also known as laminate. I use laminate because it's very easy to work with, very easy to make modifications, but also is very light and durable. And all of this, I already have it in my garage. which is laying around with ears. First, I start with the motherboard holder or the motherboard case. The motherboard holder is very simple made. I connect two pieces of floor wood and I stick it together because of stability. And the surface is an out to fit the motherboard and the other hardware. After I got the basic case, now I had to make some motherboard holders. At this point, I need something that will keep the motherboard stable, but also I need something that will little bit lift up the motherboard because of cooling. Now, as holders, I used a PC motherboard holders that I take out from a PC case. The screws are fitting well and it won't be any problem to use it on the laptop motherboard. Now, I place the motherboard and I marked where I need to drill. After I mark, I drill small holes that are an out to fit the motherboard holders. And after, I stick these small metal holders using a super glue because of the better stability. After I finish with these small holders, I continue with making the motherboard I/O and the backside holder. The I/O, I made it from floor wood and it's very simple designed. It has an out space for all connections and for the cooling. Also on the I/O, I will mount the power button and one small handle. And to make the I/O more stable and durable, from the back side I stick an additional holders. And basically, this is how the motherboard holder or the motherboard case is looking. Now let's make the case from the outside. The outside case, I will make it from a floor wood also. I connect the two pieces and then I stick it because of better stability. The outside case is made from two identical sides with almost square shape, and to one of them I made a small circle hole because of the cooling. Actually, on this position is the cooling from the motherboard. The other three sides or the frame of the case, I made it from floor wood. Just the bottom side is open, because from here more fresh air will enter in the PC case. Well, and basically this is how the PC case will look. The case actually is like a small drawer. Well, now it's time to stick all parts together. After the glue is completely dry, this is how the PC case is looking. But this is the basic design only, and we are far from finished. Well, before I continue with something other, I make one more modification. Using a white spray, I paint the middle part of the PC case, but that's because of the upcoming mod. And I paint the motherboard holder. Now let's move on the next modification. Over the PC case, I will stick a vinyl with a wooden design. Well, we're almost done. Now from the inside I will place a small plastic mesh. Actually, this mesh will stop entering dust directly to the cooling fan. Well, and this is how the PC case is looking. But we have to do a few more things. Now let's move on the other modifications. On the middle part of the PC case, I will place RGB LEDs. These LEDs are totally independent from the motherboard, with independent power supply and remote controller. After I stick the LEDs, I move on making the covers for the top side and the front side. The covers I will make it from a tiny acrylic that I will take out from an old and broken laptop display. Almost any display has these acrylic panels from the inside. The laptop displays have a thinner acrylic and the desktop monitors have a much thicker acrylic. So if you have some broken display or monitor, then you can use it for some parts. After I take out the acrylic panel, carefully I cut and I take out two parts for the top and the front side. Then, using a sandpaper, I remove the sharp edges, and both parts, using a spray paint, I paint it into a white. Now, after the covers are finished, I use a two-side tape to stick the parts on the case. With this, the light from the LEDs will be softer and it will look better. And the last thing that is left are the PC case fits. The PC case fits I left it for the end, because I have a few ideas and I must see which will look better. The fits I made it from floor wood, with the small curvatures at the edges, and over the fits I stick the same wooden vinyl that I used on the PC case because of the better aesthetics. Well, basically the PC case is finished. And now it's time to move on the motherboard. Clean the motherboard, make some upgrades, and place the motherboard in the case. First, I started by cleaning the motherboard. I had to remove the dust, the dirt, and the old thermal paste that is over the CPU socket. Also, to clean the motherboard, I used soft brush, cotton buds, and 96% isopropyl alcohol. Well, the motherboard is done, and now let's move on cleaning the heatsink and the cooling fan. Well, this is it. The heatsink, the cooling fan, and the motherboard are shining again. And now it's time to make some upgrades. The first upgrade is the CPU. Instead of using the old Pentium or the Celeron CPU, I've decided to go with something better, like Intel i7-2670QM. This is 4-cores 8-read CPU with 2.2 base clock and 3.1 turbo clock. This is an older CPU, but this is great for this computer. After I done with the CPU, first I found and installed a Wi-Fi. Actually, when I got this laptop, I got it without a Wi-Fi, and I had to find some. Now, the next upgrade is the RAM, and as RAM I will use 8 gigs in total. Actually, this computer can go up to 16 gigs or maybe 32 gigs, but because of the short budget, I had to go with 8 gigs only. And the last upgrade is the SSD. At first, I want to go with some other SSD with lower capacity, but at the last moment I received this 512 gigs NITAC SSD. 512 gigs maybe is a lot for this computer, but larger capacity means the computer will work faster. Also, under the SSD I place a small foam, which will make the disk more stable. Actually, this laptop doesn't have enclosure for the disk, and I had to do something. Now, before I place the motherboard on the case, first I connect the power button and the speakers. I had to connect the speakers because this computer has no audio jack, so in this case I cannot use an additional speakers. The audio will go over the speakers that are from the laptop or via HDMI cable. Well, before I continue with anything, first I had to make the power cable longer. The power cable is too short and cannot reach on the opposite side of the case. So I took another cable with 4 wires and I just make the power cable longer. And actually this was a very simple modification. Now, using a hot melt glue, I stick the power cable on the case and I connect the cable. After I finish with the power cable, I continue with sticking the power button and the speakers. Because the power button is from the inside and cannot be reached with a finger, I had to place an additional button. And the additional button I made it from a thicker stick that is for hot melt glue gun. But also there is a reason why, but that I will show you later. Now, after I finish with the power button, I mount a small handle on the case, because with the handle it will be easier to place or remove the motherboard from the case. The next thing that I place are the Wi-Fi antennas. These antennas are not even from this laptop, but they are with the same connector as the Wi-Fi, and in this case they will do the job perfectly. And as finished, at the bottom side of the motherboard case, I place filled pads. These filled pads mostly are used on a furniture, but in this case, these filled pads will make the motherboard case more stable, and the motherboard case will easier slide in the outer case. And basically this is all. And now let's see the final product. The reason why I use a stick from the hot melt glue gun on the power button is the stick is transparent and the power button has LED, and now the power button is illuminated. The reason why I make the LEDs independent is first, it's cheaper, and second, the computer doesn't need to be turned on to use the LEDs. So basically, the case can be like RGB LED lamp. Well, now let's move to the performance. Because I want to see how far this computer will go, I connect it on my 34-inch monitor. Because of the higher resolution, at first I think that the performance will drop a lot. But actually the drop was very small. It's about a 10 to 15%. And for the basic things is unnoticeable. The computer is working pretty good and pretty fast, without freezing, slowing down, or any other problem. Navigating through Windows is going much better than I personally expected. The computer is booting fast, the softwares are loading fast, and basically all is pretty good. The web browsing is going fast also. The web pages are loading fast. Watching videos is going great, and even I can play and watch 4K videos without any problem. Now probably you will ask, what's about the audio, the speakers? Well, the speakers are good, but not the best. The audio is clean, but the bass in the audio is a little bit missing. Well, let's hear the speakers. Well, now let's move on the last thing. Let's check the gaming performance. The gaming performance actually are not the best, because this computer has Intel HD 3000 graphics only. I tried to play a Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. I used medium settings and full screen resolution. How you can see, the frame rate is pretty low. Mostly it's about 21, but sometimes can go up to 30. However, this computer is good for some older games, or some newer games but using smaller screen resolution. Also, while testing, the temperatures are good and normal, and I didn't have any issue about temperatures or overheating. Well, basically this is all about this laptop to desktop transformation. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I hope this video will give some ideas to make some tech functional again. Also, if you want to support me to grow this channel, you can press the subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.